The town of Havenwood was, to put it mildly, predictable. Every Tuesday was library day, every Friday Mrs. Gable baked apple pie, and every Sunday, Old Man Tiber would sit on his porch, whittling little wooden birds. It was a comfortable sort of predictable, but for 10-year-old Marley it felt small. Marley lived with her grandmother, Nana Rose. Nana Rose ran the town's tiny bakery, Rose's Sweet Delights, and was always busy, flour dusting her apron and a warm smile on her face. She loved Marley dearly, of course, but between kneading dough and frosting cupcakes, she didn't always have time for long stories or fantastical adventures. Marley often found herself sketching in her notebook, creating worlds far more exciting than Havenwood in her imagination. One afternoon, while helping Nana Rose, mostly by sneaking cookie dough when she wasn't looking, Marley overheard a group of older kids, Leo and Maya, the twins, and their friend Sam, huddled by the oak tree in the town square. "It's just a story, guys," Leo was saying, rolling his eyes.
Old Man Hemlocks mit nicht circus. A bunch of nonsense.
"My grandpa says it only appears on the night of the full moon," Maya countered, her voice hushed. "And that anyone who goes inside, well, they say things change." Sam scoffed.
Change who?
"Do they suddenly become amazing acrobats? It's a story to scare little kids." They all burst into laughter, and Marley, feeling a blush creep up her cheeks, pretended to be absorbed in arranging gumdrops on a tray. But she wasn't arranging gumdrops. She was listening.
The mit nicht circus.
She'd heard whispers about it before. Snippets of conversations, hushed tones around campfires. Legend had it, the circus wasn't like any other. It appeared only on the night of the full moon, a shimmering spectacle of wonder and magic. But it was also said to be different.
A little unsettling.
Leo's dismissal should have been enough to convince her it was a silly tale. But something about the way Maya had spoken, the hint of mystery in her voice, sparked a strange feeling in Marley's chest.
A pull. A longing for something more.
That evening, after helping Nana Rose close the bakery, Marley sat on her bedroom windowsill, staring out at the darkening sky.
Havenwood was quiet, the only sound the gentle chirping of crickets.
The moon, a silver disk, was beginning to rise, growing larger and brighter with each passing minute. It was a perfect, round, luminous moon. And as Marley gazed at it, she knew, with a certainty that surprised even herself, that she had to find out if the midnight circus was real. She had to see it for herself. A small, determined smile touched her lips. She grabbed her trusty notebook and a small, silver locket Nana Rose had given her. A locket containing a tiny picture of her parents. It was her most treasured possession. Tonight, she was going on an adventure. The back gate of Old Man Hemlock's farm creaked in protest as Marley slipped through, the sound swallowed by the growing symphony of music drifting on the night air. It wasn't the familiar tune of Havenwood's town band. This was a swirling, enchanting melody played on instruments she couldn't quite identify, a calliope's cheerful blare intertwined with the ethereal chime of bells and the rhythmic beat of drums that seemed to pulse with the moonlight itself. She followed the sound, her heart hammering against her ribs, until she reached a clearing she'd never known existed. And then, she gasped. It was impossible. Before her stood a circus, bathed in silver light. Not a circus of tents and canvas, but one woven from stardust and dreams. Elephants, shimmering with a pearlescent glow, floated gently above the ground, their trunks intertwined with luminous vines. Acrobats, clad in costumes that seemed to capture the colors of the aurora borealis, tumbled and twirled on beams of moonlight, their laughter echoing like wind chimes. A carousel spun with horses carved from crystal, their manes flowing with constellations. The air smelled of cotton candy, but not the sugary, artificial kind Nana Rose made. This was a scent laced with something else. Something ancient and magical, like crushed stardust and forgotten wishes. Marley wandered through the crowds, mesmerized. People, or at least, beings that looked like people, strolled past, their faces alight with joy. They offered her candied apples that tasted like sunshine and tiny, glowing flowers that smelled of cinnamon. Everything was vibrant, exhilarating, utterly and completely fantastical. Then, she saw him.
The ringmaster.
He stood in the center of the circus, a tall, slender figure with a dazzling smile and eyes that twinkled like distant stars. He wore a coat of midnight blue velvet, embroidered with silver thread, and a top hat that seemed to hold the entire night sky within its brim. "Welcome, my dear," he boomed, his voice warm and inviting.
Welcome to the Midnight Circus.
"I am Maestro Silvano, and I am delighted to have you as our guest." Marley, usually shy, found herself smiling back. "It's amazing," she breathed, barely able to find the words. "Amazing is just the beginning."
Maestro Silvano chuckled. Come, let Emil show you around.
He led her past a fortune teller whose crystal ball swirled with nebulae, past a strong man bending bars of pure light, and past a group of clowns juggling shimmering orbs. Marley laughed, genuinely delighted. She felt free. But as she continued to explore, a subtle unease began to creep into her joy. The performers, while incredibly skilled, moved with a strange detachment. Their smiles seemed fixed, their eyes empty. They acknowledged the applause, but didn't truly see the audience. She noticed a boy, a little older than herself, sitting alone on a bench, watching the performance with a somber expression. He had dark, messy hair and wore a faded, patched-up jacket. He seemed to be deliberately avoiding eye contact. Hesitantly, Marley approached him. "Hi," she said softly. "It's pretty incredible, isn't it?" The boy jumped, startled. He glanced at her, his eyes filled with a strange mixture of sadness and warning. "It's something," he mumbled, looking quickly back at the performers. "Do you come here often?" Marley asked. He hesitated, then shook his head. "I used to." "Do you know a lot about the circus?"
He shrugged.
"Enough to know it's not what it seems." He paused, then glanced around nervously. "Just be careful," he whispered before quickly turning away. Marley frowned, a prickle of unease running down her spine. What did he mean? She looked back at the performers, at their flawless routines and vacant expressions. The music, which had moments ago felt so enchanting, now sounded hollow. The joy around her felt manufactured, forced. The silver light of the circus suddenly seemed a little colder, a little less welcoming. A shadow of doubt began to eclipse the wonder. Something wasn't right. The boy's warning echoed in Marley's ears as she continued to wonder, but the spectacle of the midnight circus was a powerful lure. Just as she was about to seek him out again, a hand gently touched her shoulder. She turned to find Maestro Silvano smiling down at her, his twinkling eyes seeming to hold all the secrets of the universe. "Lost little star?" he asked, his voice a smooth, comforting melody.
Marley blues head.
"No, sir."
Just looking around.
"Looking around is good," Silvano said with a knowing smile. "But sometimes, it's even better to be found. Tell me, my dear, do you have any talents? Anything you enjoy doing?"
Marley's heart skipped a beat.
She wasn't particularly good at anything, not really. She loved to read, but that didn't seem like something you could perform in a circus. "I used to juggle," she mumbled, remembering a brief phase during a summer camp. "But I'm probably rusty."
Silvano's smile widened.
"Rusty is easily polished. We always have room for a new star. Come, let's see what you can do." He led her to a small, circular platform bathed in a soft, ethereal glow. A collection of glowing orbs, each pulsating with a different color, floated in the air before her. "These are stellar spheres," Silvano explained. "They respond to joy, to imagination. Just play with them." Hesitantly, Marley reached out and took one of the orbs. It felt warm and weightless in her hand. She tossed it into the air, and another followed, then another. To her surprise, she found she hadn't forgotten how. The orbs danced around her, obeying her every whim, swirling and looping in a mesmerizing display. Silvano clapped his hands, his eyes sparkling with delight.
"Magnificent. You have a natural gift, my dear. A true star."
Emboldened by his praise, Marley began to experiment, creating more complex patterns, weaving the orbs into intricate formations. The audience, drawn by the spectacle, began to gather. A hush fell over the crowd as she juggled faster and faster, the stellar spheres blurring into a kaleidoscope of light. Then, the applause erupted. It was a thunderous wave of sound, washing over her, filling her with a heady sense of exhilaration. She had never felt so alive, so important. She took a bow, beaming. Later, as she walked with Silvano back towards the center of the circus, he offered her a small, silver locket. A token of our appreciation, my dear. Wear it, and let it remind you of your triumph. Marley gratefully accepted the locket, fastening it around her neck. It felt cool against her skin. The next day, while helping Nana Rose bake cookies, Marley found herself struggling to remember the recipe for her favorite chocolate chip cookies. It was a recipe she'd made dozens of times with her grandmother. The ingredients felt distant, elusive.
What's wrong, sweetie?
Nana Rose asked, noticing her furrowed brow. I can't quite remember how much flour to put in, Marley stammered, feeling a prickle of anxiety.
It's silly, I know. I always use to know.
Nana Rose chuckled kindly.
Happens to the best of us, dear.
Here, let me help. But it wasn't just the recipe. Later that evening, she couldn't quite place the name of the boy she used to build forts with in the woods. His face was clear as day in her mind, but the name vanished like smoke. A cold dread began to creep into her heart.
She took the silver locket, a sudden, chilling realization passing over here.
Each burst of applause, each moment of triumph in the circus. It was costing her something.
Something precious. Something irreplaceable.
The stellar spheres obeyed her now with an almost frightening eagerness. Marley's performances grew grander each night. She moved beyond simple juggling, creating dazzling displays where the orbs formed shimmering animals, cascading waterfalls of light, even miniature galaxies swirling around her fingertips. The applause was deafening, the adoration intoxicating. Maestro Silvano beamed, showering her with praise and increasingly elaborate costumes. But the joy felt hollow. It started subtly.
Forgetting the little things.
The color of her second-grade teacher's dress. The lyrics to a silly song Nana Rose used to sing. Then, bigger things began to slip away. Her 10th birthday party. A hazy impression of balloons and cake, but no clear faces, no specific gifts. The annual family trip to the seaside, reduced to a feeling of sand between her toes and the scent of salt air, devoid of details. She found herself staring at old photographs, trying to coax the memories back. A picture of her and her father building a magnificent sandcastle. She knew she loved those days, felt the warmth of his smile, but couldn't recall the specifics of his touch, the sound of his laughter. Each missing piece felt like a tiny shard of herself dissolving. One afternoon, after a particularly triumphant performance, she'd conjured a breathtaking image of a phoenix rising from the stellar spheres. She sought out Leo, the boy from the edge of the circus grounds. He was sitting alone, sketching in a worn notebook, his face shadowed. "Leo?" she asked tentatively. He looked up, his expression guarded. "You're the star now," he said, his voice flat.
"Everyone is talking about you."
"It doesn't feel good," Marley confessed, clutching the silver locket Silvano had given her. She hadn't taken it off since.
I'm forgetting things. Important things.
Like my birthday parties." Leo closed his notebook, a flicker of something, pity, in his eyes. "That's what it does." What does?
The circus.
It feeds on memories, on joy, on everything that makes you you.
The brichter you shine, the more IT tages. Marley's breath hitched.
You knew. He nodded slowly. "I've been here a long time. Seen a lot of stars rise and fall. They all start like you, excited, hopeful. Then, they start to fade. But why? Why would it do that?" Maestro Silvano. He wasn't always like this. He used to have memories of his own, they say. But time, it wore him down. He became lonely. Now, he collects them from others. He believes it fills the void. Marley's gaze fell to the locket. It felt strangely warm now, almost hungry. She noticed a small scratch on its surface that hadn't been there before, a tiny imperfection marring its silver sheen. It was as if the locket itself was changing, reflecting her diminishing recollections. "Look at Alara," Leo continued, nodding towards a girl practicing a tightrope walk, her movements graceful but vacant.
She uzet to tell the best stories. Hilarious, imaginative tales.
Now, she barely speaks. Just performs.
Mali vechet Elara, a wave of sadness wasing over here.
The girl's eyes were beautiful, but they held no spark, no trace of the storyteller she once was. She saw another performer, a boy who played a haunting melody on a violin, staring blankly into the distance, his fingers moving mechanically. Is there anything I can do?" Mali asked, her voice barely a whisper.
Leo shrugged.
"Some say if you hold onto something truly precious, a strong memory, it can shield you. But it's hard. The circus, it's very persuasive. And Silvano, he's very good at what he does." He paused, then added, "I have a small stone, from my grandmother's garden. It always helped me remember her. It's not much, but..." He reached into his pocket and offered her a smooth gray pebble. "Take it. Maybe it will help." Marley took the stone, its coolness a stark contrast to the warmth of the locket. It felt solid, grounding. A small piece of someone else's memory, offered as a lifeline. She clutched it tightly in her hand, a desperate hope flickering within her. She knew, with a chilling certainty, that she was in a race against time. A race to remember who she was before the midnight circus stole everything away. The following night, Marley couldn't sleep. Leo's words echoed in her mind, a chilling refrain. He isn't just running the circus, he is the circus. Driven by a desperate need to understand, she slipped away from her tent, the silver locket cool against her skin. The stone Leo had given her felt like a small anchor in the swirling uncertainty. She found herself drawn to the heart of the circus, a towering structure draped in velvet and lit by 1,000 flickering lamps. It wasn't a tent, not exactly. It seemed to grow from the ground, a living, breathing entity. Hesitantly, she pushed aside a heavy curtain and entered. The interior was unlike anything she'd seen before. Not a performance space, but a vast chamber filled with swirling mists and shimmering fragments of light. In the center, suspended in midair, was Maestro Silvano. But he wasn't conducting, wasn't greeting guests. He was unraveling. His form flickered, shifting between a man in a magnificent coat and something else entirely. A cloud of stardust, a whisper of smoke, a constellation of fading memories. Around him, tendrils of light snaked out, connecting to the performers asleep in their tents, drawing subtle energy from them. He sensed her presence. The unraveling slowed, coalescing back into the familiar, twinkling-eyed ringmaster. He descended slowly, landing before her with a graceful flourish. "Marley," he said, his voice a melodic echo.
"I wondered wen you'd come."
"Curiosity is a powerful gift, you know." What's happening?" she stammered, clutching the gray stone tighter.
Leo said, "You are the circus?"
Silvano sighed, a sound like the wind whistling through ancient ruins.
"In a way, yes.
I am its essence, its heart. And it is me." He gestured around the chamber. "This isn't merely a collection of tents and performers, child. It's a living thing, woven from dreams and remembrance." Then, images flooded Marley's mind, not her own, but fractured glimpses of his.
A young man, vibrantly alive, lauking with friends under a summer sun.
A passionate artist, sketching breathtaking landscapes. A lover, gazing into the eyes of someone he cherished. But the images were fading, corrupted by static, like old film reels disintegrating. "I wasn't always like this," Silvano said, his voice laced with a profound sadness.
"I had a life, a past. Memories as vivid as your own."
"But time is a cruel thief. It stole them all, one by one, until there was nothing left but an echoing emptiness." He paused, his gaze locking with hers. "Then I discovered the power of joy, of remembrance. The energy it creates. I found I could sustain myself, become something again, by borrowing the memories of others."
Marley recoiled.
"Borrowing? You're stealing them."
A harsh word, child.
"Think of it as sharing.
A temporary exchange.
I give them wonder, excitement, a chance to shine. And in return, I receive sustenance,
connection.
He extended a hand towards her, his eyes pleading. I don't wish to harm anyone.
I simply wish to be.
He showed her more visions, countless children, their faces alight with joy as they performed, their memories flowing into him, momentarily filling the void. He wasn't malicious, not cruel. He was desperately, achingly lonely. Marley remembered the vacant stares of Alara and the violinist, the hollow echo of their lost stories. But they're forgetting who they are, she protested. It's not worth it just to not be alone.
Silvanos' Expression darkened. You don't understand.
To exist without memory is to not exist at all. It's to be adrift in an endless darkness.
I offer them immortality, a place in something beautiful, something eternal.
Driven by a growing sense of dread, Marley tried to warn the other performers during rehearsals. She approached Alara, attempting to subtly hint at the cost of her performances. Your stories were amazing, she said. I miss hearing them. Alara simply smiled, a vacant, glassy-eyed smile. Stories are for the past, dear. Now, we create magic. The violinist, lost in his music, didn't even seem to hear her. They were all too captivated, too enthralled by the applause and the dazzling lights to notice the slow erosion of their selves. Returning to the chamber, Marley found Silvano waiting for her. They won't listen, she said, her voice trembling. They don't understand what's happening. Silvano's eyes held a flicker of something akin to regret. They are young, easily swayed by the allure of the spotlight. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a persuasive whisper.
Marley, you are different. You have a gift. You could be a legend within my circus, a star that shines forever.
All you have to do is let go. Let me share in your memories, and in return, I will give you everything you've ever dreamed of.
The offer hung in the air, shimmering like the circus lights.
A legend. Forever. The words resonated with a loneliness she hadn't fully acknowledged within herself. Marley had always felt a little, invisible, overshadowed by the bustle of her grandfather's workshop and the demands of his inventions. To be seen, truly seen, and celebrated. It was a powerful lure. Silvano seemed to anticipate her thoughts.
Imagine Marley he murmured, a stage built just for you.
Costumes woven from moonlight, music composed from your laughter. You'd never have to feel overlooked again. You'd be the heart of the midnight circus, its brightest star. He gestured to the swirling mists around them. All of this could be yours. A vision bloomed in her mind, a grand stage, a sea of faces illuminated by adoring smiles, the thunderous applause washing over her. She saw herself soaring through the air, performing impossible feats of grace and wonder. It was intoxicating. But then, a flicker of doubt. The image felt empty. What would happen to my memories? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Silvano's smile was gentle, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. They wouldn't be gone, child.
Simply integrated.
They would become part of the circus, fueling its magic, enriching its story. And you would be free from the burden of remembering. The burden of remembering. The phrase chilled her. Was remembering truly a burden? She closed her eyes, desperately trying to conjure a memory, a clear, vivid snapshot of her life before the circus. She pictured her grandfather's workshop, the scent of sawdust and metal, the comforting rhythm of his hammering. But the details were hazy, fragmented. The color of his favorite wrench, the tune he whistled while he worked. They slipped through her grasp like grains of sand. Panic tightened its grip around her chest. She needed to see it, to feel it. I need air, she stammered, turning and fleeing the chamber. She found herself outside, stumbling through the deserted circus grounds. Drawn by an instinct she couldn't explain, she walked towards the edge of the field, towards the town she'd left behind just days ago. She needed to go home. The walk felt both familiar and alien. Everything looked the same, yet felt distant. When she reached the small park near her grandfather's workshop, she sat on the chipped paint of a swing set, pushing off with her feet, trying to recapture a memory. She used to spend hours here with her grandfather, him building fantastical contraptions with spare parts while she soared through the air, pretending to be a pilot. She strained, focusing with all her might. She could feel the joy of the swinging, the wind in her hair. But the specifics eluded her. What had they talked about? What silly games had they played? It was like looking at a photograph of someone else's childhood. Tears welled in her eyes. This was what Silvano meant. This was the price of starlight. Suddenly, a shadow fell over her.
Leo.
He sat on the swing next to her, his face etched with concern.
He offered you the deal, didn't he?
Leo asked, his voice low. Marley nodded, unable to speak.
I knew he would. He always does. Leo sighed. It's how he hooks them.
Promises of glory, of belonging. But it's a gilded cage, Marley.
A beautiful prison.
I almost said yes, she confessed, wiping away a tear. It sounded so wonderful. To be important, to be seen. Leo put a comforting hand on her shoulder.
You are important, Marley.
And you are seen. By me, by your grandfather. Even if he doesn't always show it the way you want him to. He paused, then added, look, there's a way to disrupt the flow, to weaken him. The circus feeds on the energy of belief, of wonder. If we can somehow break the spell, remind people of what they've forgotten, it might be enough.
How?
Marley asked, hope flickering in her chest. There's an old music box in the prop tent. It plays a tune that was popular in town years ago, before the circus came. Legend says it has a way of stirring up old memories. If we can get it playing, loud enough for everyone to hear. It's risky, Marley said, her voice trembling.
Hell no. Everything is risky.
But doing nothing is a guarantee that you'll lose everything. Leo looked at her with determined eyes.
Are you with me?
Marley took a deep breath, the scent of the town, of normalcy, of home, filling her lungs. She thought of her grandfather, of the forgotten details of their shared moments. She thought of Alara and the violinist, lost in their enchanted haze. Yes, she said, her voice gaining strength.
I'm with you.
The prop tent smelled of dust and forgotten dreams. Leo, nimble and quick, had already located the music box, a tarnished silver thing etched with swirling vines. It felt strangely warm to the touch, humming with a dormant energy.
Ready?
Leo whispered, his eyes reflecting the faint moonlight filtering through the tent flaps. Marley nodded, her heart hammering against her ribs.
Silvano will be expecting us.
Let him, Leo said with a grim smile. He underestimates the power of a good memory. Their plan was audacious, bordering on reckless. They would interrupt Maestro Silvano's grand finale, a dazzling display of illusions meant to enthrall the audience and solidify the circus's hold on the town. Leo would create a diversion, drawing Silvano's attention, while Marley, disguised as one of the stagehands, would sneak onto the platform and activate the music box. The finale was already underway. Silvano, resplendent in a coat of midnight blue, was weaving a spell of shimmering lights and impossible shapes. The audience was captivated, their faces lit with wonder. But Marley saw the hollowness in their eyes, the subtle flicker of detachment. Leo's diversion worked perfectly. He accidentally tripped, sending a cascade of props tumbling across the stage, forcing Silvano to momentarily break his concentration. It was Marley's chance. She slipped onto the platform, her hands trembling as she wound the music box. The moment the key turned, a melody spilled into the arena, a simple, lilting tune that somehow felt familiar. It wasn't a grand, sweeping orchestral piece. It was a children's song, a lullaby.
At first, nothing happened.
Silvano, regaining his composure, shot Marley a furious glance. He raised his hands, preparing to unleash another wave of illusions, but the music seemed to push back, creating a subtle resistance in the air. Then, a single tear rolled down the cheek of Alara, the ethereal acrobat. She paused midair, her movements faltering. A flicker of recognition crossed her face. Marley closed her eyes, focusing on the memory that had anchored her during her darkest moments. A summer afternoon in her grandfather's workshop. He was teaching her to build a miniature sailboat, his calloused hands guiding hers. The scent of wood shavings, the warmth of his smile, the sound of his gentle laughter. She poured all of it into her act, imagining the sailboat gliding across a sun-dappled lake. She began to move, not with the practiced grace of a circus performer, but with the raw emotion of someone reliving a cherished moment. She didn't juggle glowing orbs or walk on moonbeams. She built. Using scraps of fabric and discarded props, she began to construct a miniature version of her grandfather's workshop, her movements mirroring the memory, each gesture imbued with love and longing. The music swelled, and with it, the energy in the arena began to shift.
The shimmering illusions flickered and dimmed.
The audience stirred, their faces no longer blank with wonder, but etched with confusion. Then recognition. A woman gasped, clutching a faded photograph to her chest. A man smiled, remembering a childhood spent building forts in the woods. One by one, the other performers began to remember. The violinist, his fingers trembling, played a fragment of a forgotten melody. The strong man, his muscles slackening, recalled his mother's embrace. They joined Marley, their own memories manifesting as small, imperfect recreations of their pasts. The stage transformed into a chaotic, beautiful collage of forgotten moments. Silvano watched in horror as his power waned. The music box's melody was a beacon, cutting through the enchantment, reminding everyone of the lives they had left behind. His face contorted in a mixture of rage and despair. "Stop it!" he roared, but his voice lacked its usual authority. Marley didn't stop. She continued to build, her movements fueled by the blossoming memories around her. The miniature workshop grew, becoming a testament to the power of remembrance. The air thrummed with a warmth that had nothing to do with magic and everything to do with love. Finally, as the last note of the lullaby faded, a wave of energy washed over the circus, breaking the spell completely. The illusions vanished, replaced by the mundane reality of a dusty field. The audience, shaken but awakened, began to murmur, sharing stories, reconnecting with loved ones.
The first rise of dawn painted the sky in hues of rose and gold, chasing away the lingering shadows of the midnight circus.
It wasn't a dramatic collapse, no puff of smoke or thunderous rumble. Instead, it felt like a fading dream. The vibrant tents deflated, the fantastical structures dissolved into mist, and the air, once thick with enchantment, thinned to the crisp morning chill. Maestro Silvano stood alone amidst the dissipating spectacle, his usually immaculate coat rumpled, his eyes filled with a profound sadness. Marley, Leo at her side, approached him cautiously. He didn't attempt to stop them, didn't unleash any lingering magic. He simply looked defeated. "It's ending," Leo breathed, stating the obvious. Silvano nodded, a weary gesture. He looked at Marley, and for the first time, she didn't see a manipulative ringmaster, but a lonely soul.
The music. It broke the shanks.
"Not just on your memories, child, but on mine as well." He paused, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. "For centuries, I wandered, collecting joy, collecting pieces of others. I thought it was connection. I thought it was a way to fill the emptiness." He looked out at the dissolving circus, a wistful expression on his face. But it was just an echo, a hollow imitation of what it means to truly live.
Do you regret it?
Marley asked, her voice barely a whisper.
Silvanos Gase Meters.
Regret? Yes.
Immensely.
I stole moments, precious fragments of lives. But I also showed people wonder, even if it was fleeting. Perhaps this is a chance for me to learn a different way. A way to find joy not in taking, but in observing, in appreciating. He sighed, a sound like the rustling of autumn leaves. The circus will fade, but I won't. I'll remain, a silent guardian of this field, a reminder of the price of forgetting. And perhaps, one day, I can use what little power I have left to help others cherish their memories, not steal them. He turned to Leo.
You were clever, boy.
To use a lullaby, the simplest of things, yet the most powerful. It reminded them of home. With a final, lingering look, Silvano began to fade, becoming translucent, then disappearing completely, leaving only a faint shimmer in the air. Leo and Marley walked in silence towards the edge of the field, where the first hints of the town were visible. The other children, their faces alight with returning memories, were already beginning to make their way home. Elara, the acrobat, was laughing with a small boy who Marley assumed was her brother. The strong man was embracing a tearful woman, likely his mother. "It's over," Leo said, a relieved smile spreading across his face. "We did it." Marley nodded, but a wave of exhaustion washed over her. She realized how much she had almost lost, not just specific memories, but the very essence of herself. As they neared her house, Marley spotted her grandmother tending to the small garden in the front yard. A wave of warmth flooded her chest. She remembered the countless hours spent with her grandmother, learning the names of flowers, the secrets of growing tomatoes, the comfort of a warm hug. "Grandma!" she called out, running towards her. Her grandmother turned, her face breaking into a radiant smile.
"Marley, where have you been?"
"I was so worried." She enveloped Marley in a tight embrace.
"You missed dinner, you know."
"I made your favorite, blueberry pie." Marley clung to her grandmother, burying her face in her shoulder. The scent of roses and earth filled her nostrils, a grounding, familiar aroma. "I'm home, Grandma. I'm really home." She didn't tell her grandmother about the circus, not yet. It was a secret she shared with Leo and the other children, a shared understanding of a magical night and the importance of holding onto what truly mattered. Later, as she sat at the kitchen table, savoring a slice of warm blueberry pie, Marley looked out the window at the field.
A faint shimmer still hung in the air, a subtle reminder of the midnight circus.
It might return one day, she thought, but perhaps next time, it would be a place of celebration, a place where memories were honored, not stolen. And as she looked at her grandmother, her heart full of love and gratitude, Marley knew that no magic, no circus, could ever compare to the simple, enduring power of a cherished memory.